Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of My Boss is a Theater Kid. We are here in Zeem Studios right in Times Square, and we are live currently, so always be sure to check out Zeem. But I'm also here with my really good friend, Jack Mastrianni, everybody. Yay!
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. Jack and I are really good friends from high school.
Geez.
Growing up in Bethlehem, New York. We've known each other since the start of high school.
A
long time. Oh
Too
my
long.
gosh.
We should break up.
Jack is a very successful actor and he's been doing a million things, so let's get into it. You were a child actor. Let's start from there.
Yeah, I was a child actor on Broadway, which I still can't believe I say that, and that's my reality. I think like each year as I look back, I'm like, oh, like people spend their entire life trying to get to those 40 theaters, and I was so lucky to just do it. But to start at the very, very beginning, I was a competitive swimmer growing up, but in first grade, famously, the High School Musical series came out, the first one at least.
Love.
And I was like, oh wow, like boys can sing and dance too. So I was obsessed with those movies as they came out. My mom in third grade put me in voice lessons. And then I started doing a little community theater in like Albany and Bethlehem, which was great. And we were so spoiled in our upbringing in the Capital District that there was so much arts.
A
Dance,
lot, yeah.
voice, community theater, ballet, like no matter what you wanted,
Music
it was there, and like
opportunities.
all various levels.
And you're 2 hours away from New York.
Yeah. My voice teacher started encouraging me to do it professionally as a kid, and I went to a great summer intensive here in the city through her vocal studio called the Open Jar Institute, which is still running to this day. And you spend a whole week in New York City with a bunch of Broadway professionals, and you learn from them firsthand and see 4 Broadway shows throughout the week. And in that week, I met the associate choreographer of A Christmas Story on Broadway. And they were looking for a Scut Farkus, the bully, famously in the movie. Luckily, through that experience, I was called into the show, did about 4 or 5 callbacks over the course of, I think, like 2 months. And I remember during the callbacks, I had no idea what I was doing. And every single experience was a gift to get to the next round, and to just learn what this was. And my parents were like, yeah, sure, like another day, let's get a hotel and let's do it. Like, this is a great experience. But then at the very end, like, I think the reality for them sat in of like, oh, he might get this. That's insane.
like, oh my gosh, our kid's going to be on Broadway.
Do we have to move to New York City? Do we have to get an apartment? Like, my dad has a full-time job. We have another, like, I was 13, so my brother was like 16, like junior in high school. And somehow we all made it work. Crazy, informative experience.
You were on the Tony Awards.
Yeah, I did the Tony Awards that year because we were nominated for Best Musical, which that was really, really cool because it's really unique when a show is nominated for Best Musical and they've already closed. I think there were 4 nominees. It was Bring It On, which I'd already closed as well, and then Matilda and Kinky Boots. So we
like a
all had to
reunion
come
for you
back.
guys, yeah.
Yeah. So and like a lot of the other kids were on jobs, but it was like divine intervention. Like we all got to come back for that 1 week in June.
Wow.
They put us up and we rehearsed for a week and did a number on the Tonys, which was that's truly once in a lifetime because how many people are on Broadway and don't get to make it to the Tony Awards?
Absolutely.
So we had dressing rooms on the 9th floor at Radio City.
Oh,
so we
wow.
were, and then we did the opening number as well with Neil Patrick Harris.
Iconic.
Which that was with every Broadway musical that season was represented on stage. That was really, really wild. But more than anything, that experience, I was so lucky for it because I learned in like 8th grade what I wanted to do, or at least the industry I wanted to be a part of, like the rest of my life. Which how many people spend like their whole 20s discovering
what so many people
is,
our age
and,
are still discovering what they want to do. Yeah.
And
that is so special.
Yeah. So I was really lucky in that regard. And I remember during A Christmas Story, there was an article that came out, I think it was the Washington Post, talking about college musical theater programs and how they were represented on different shows. And our show, Christmas Story, had the most University of Michigan graduates.
Oh, wow.
More than any other show. And they did like kind of a profile on the University of Michigan and then Carnegie Mellon. And I remember reading that article in 8th grade and not even knowing there was programs. There was a BFA in musical theater, and you could not only do it as a profession, but you could study it in an academic setting. I wanted to go to the University of Michigan, and as you know, like I pretty much spent
You
all 4 years
manifested
of high
it.
school,
Right.
like all extracurriculars, all APs, everything. What is going to get me into the University of Michigan, which was insane, like almost obsessive and like mental health draining.
Well, but you manifested it and you got there.
Yeah,
But
and by the seat of my pants, I got in. If I didn't, like, I remember the night the phone calls went out. Like, all my friends were like, "Are you okay? Are you alone?" And luckily, I got a call. But I remember when you got your call too.
Yeah.
For dance, right?
dance.
And those calls went out like way before musical theater.
And so you were just like, oh my God, I can't believe you already got called. And
No, I was so
waiting.
excited for you, and I was so anxious. Yeah, that's a whole other
That's
like
so funny.
podcast in itself. Like the college auditions.
Absolutely.
Like for musical theater, for dance,
Insanity.
for musical, it is so hard. And every year it only gets harder. And I helped with the auditions when I was there at school. Like every year they got more and more applicants. Like the acceptance rate is like less than 1%. The resiliency you need to have as a 17-year-old to get like all these rejections. But at the end of the day, you only need one yes, which is kind of what we do professionally
Right.
too.
That's kind of, it really does prepare you for Broadway.
Yeah.
But so you did Christmas Story on Broadway.
Yeah.
Then came back, lived a normal life at home. And then tell us again what you came back to New York to do.
Yeah. And then my junior year, I did the Radio City Christmas Spectacular with the Rockettes, which was also an incredible experience, but so different from the Broadway community. It's a whole different union. It's a whole different contract. And it's like just a whole different culture as a show that is in New York City every single year with like a huge corporate company overseeing it.
Right.
Also, not to mention, like, Broadway, you do 8 shows a week, which is so hard and intense on your body, even for kids who have like endless energy. Not to mention, like, you do school on top of
You were
8 shows
doing
a
double.
week and tutoring and all that. But at Radio City, there are 32, 33 shows a week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And there are 2 full casts of adults, 2 casts of Rockettes, as well as the adult ensembles. And then for the kids, there's actually 3 casts, simply because of like the child labor laws and how many hours you can work per week as a minor. Like I remember the first day, like the entire stage management team of like 10 stage managers knew everyone's name from like these face sheets. So like like the importance of knowing your first name and who you are, and how like that's when I learned like how important that is when you address people by name and you're a human being and not like a robot. But yeah, and to be a part of like not only New York history but like dance history, like the Rockettes, who have been around for close to 100 years. And like parts of the show, like the Wooden Soldiers, it's been in the show since
the start,
since the inception. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was my junior year, and then I came back to Bethlehem, finish out junior year and senior year, and then senior year I didn't really do a whole lot professionally, just because of the college auditions.
I want to ask, how was the back and forth between living out your dream as a kid in New York City on Broadway at Radio City Music Hall and then going back and being a normal kid at school?
Loaded question. Middle school and high school as a normal kid are 2 totally different experiences. Middle school is so hard, and I can't even imagine doing it now with social media and how just like mean people can be. I wasn't ever like bullied, and I had a core group of friends, but you know, I struggled just as much as anyone else. And then I was on Broadway and being treated as a professional in this professional environment with all grown adults.
Right.
Making a full-time living. And then all with that within 3 months as the limited run, as a Christmas show, and then going straight back to being an 8th grader. That was really tricky. And going back to like the politics of the lunchroom and your homework in social studies and Spanish, that was really, really difficult. And like I went through a really rough few months of that.
Right.
But then I gotta say, in high school, coming back from Radio City, it was not only 10 times easier, but I was so happy and relieved to be back home with my friends.
Yeah.
And I remember that
We
year.
had so many exciting things ahead of us.
Yeah. And not another like full length podcast, but Radio City as a almost 17-year-old being treated as an adult and working a full-time job, and then going home to my parents treating me like a 17-year-old. There was a lot of friction there. There was a lot of, as I think there would be for anyone.
You're on the cusp of going to college, going to school.
Yeah, and like 9 to 5 being an adult and then going home and being a kid. That was a really hard, black and white situation.
Right.
So going back to high school and just being allowed to be a kid again full time was really, really awesome. I remember that year we did Grease,
Oh yeah.
which was so much fun. And yeah, I just remember more than anything, it was a relief to like not have the pressures of like Madison Square Garden entertainment like as
Right.
my boss. And
That's
like,
interesting because I feel like some people would think that going back home, you would need to be at like the top of your game. Like, I mean, you were, but
yeah.
feeling even more pressure to deliver at your High School Musical. Did you feel any pressure at all, or it really just was a relief because you kind of knew this would be the last time you did it really just for fun?
Yeah, I definitely think the latter. Just because like the High School Musical, like it's everything it should be at the time. Like it's the kids that
Yeah.
do sports and all the extra clubs and put on a show because they want to be there and put on a show. What I've learned now as a professional, a few years post grad, like like this is a business, this is a job, and at the end of the day, we're going to like work to make our living and then go home.
Right.
And that, in a way, bare bones just takes a little bit of the fun out of it. But
Interesting.
yeah, I look back at like my junior year into senior year, albeit college auditions, was a really happy time because again, I gave myself the grace to like be a kid.
So then you went into college at University of Michigan, which I think most people know for musical theater is. Oh, we have a lovely motorcycle outside of our studio.
Hey, motorcycle. Oh yeah, there.
Most people know for musical theater is the most prestigious program in the nation. You could go to any Broadway show, any regional theater, and chances are you'd find a Michigan grad in the show. How was your experience there? Did you feel pressure coming into a school with such legacy, or did you feel just like chill about it because you knew you already had professional experience growing up?
I wanted to go to Michigan for such a long premeditated like period of time.
Yeah.
When I got to Michigan, like there were people in my class who didn't know musical theater and being an actor could be a career. Like there's movie stars, but like I could pursue this and I could find success in this.
Right.
There are people in my class that didn't know that till their junior year of high school.
Oh wow.
Or better yet, like did a sport and then got convinced to do the high school play, loved it, and then found themselves at the University of Michigan.
Troy Bolton.
Yeah. And like that's a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
And everyone's on their own path. But I was very, very fortunate that I got to go to the program and the resources it gave me. I think like the happiest 6 months of my life was like from when I got accepted to Michigan to like welcome week when I moved in. Because you were like, I worked so hard for this one goal and achieved it. For lack of a better word, like the validation of like I am doing something right and these professors and this program does believe in me.
Right.
And I'm not there yet, so I can kind of just enjoy and like, like the senior year high.
Right.
And then you get to Michigan and you walk in the door. All of a sudden, like going to Michigan doesn't make you special. In the room of 120 people in the 4 classes that all go to Michigan.
Brings you right back down to earth.
Right. And then all of a sudden, like you're the freshman in the program and you are with the leaders of the industry and of like the soon to be industry of that
Right.
year. So it's very high pressure. The faculty, like I would say as a whole throughout the 4 years, the faculty is incredible and they really push you on your path. Like what makes you special? What are like your interests and your passion? And which one of those was like business management. And I got a minor in performing arts management and I took a lot of business classes at the Ross School of Business. And they would help you seek out those opportunities within like the huge research institution that was Michigan with 40,000 people. In a competitive program, everyone's not necessarily competitive with each other, nor does the faculty pin you up with each other, but you're so competitive with yourself.
Absolutely.
And when you're in a room of people like on their A game and also like the people who just want it the most, the people who are the most hungry to be better, it's really, really hard. All to say like that only makes you a better artist, a better person. And I'm such an advocate for college education, even if that is a BFA in musical theater. And no matter what the school, like there are so many programs that will give you an incredible education. And I think like there is, especially now with social media, like this elitist form of like, if you don't go to these 10 schools, then why go? Like at the end of the day, you need to go to the school that you think is going to give the best education for yourself, your needs, and your passion under the umbrella of like what your circumstance is. I was really happy that I got to go to a school that, you know, just encouraged all of my individuality, that sets you
Absolutely.
up for. And now, like, I think you can relate to this too, but like a few years out of school, you kind of realize, and maybe that's just like a thing of your 20s, but like the more you know, the more you realize like how much of an idiot you are in every sense. Like,
Yeah.
and how important college is. Like, when you're 18 and you just finish high school, you think you know absolutely everything,
Yep.
and you know nothing.
Yep.
In college, you learn so much about yourself personally, and it humbles you from 10 to
Right.
1. And then, like, I mean, so does your young professional life. But
What are some tips you would give for college students that are maybe just starting a musical theater program?
I would say, more than anything, like, those 4 years are your education. The more work and the more commitment you put into those 4 years, the more you're going to get out of your career. I remember parts of my education being like, in high school, musical theater was my passion, and it was the fun thing to do at night after I finished my homework.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, when it's your education
It's
and all
such
your
a
homework,
flip of the switch.
right, then again, it takes a little bit of the joy out, and that, like, whether I like it or not, I have to do these worksheets on Golden Age musical theater,
Right.
and like read these history books about something I'm so passionate, but homework nonetheless. Put in the work. Don't just go through the motions and, you know, do the assignments and study for the test like you would in high school. Like, no matter what your subject level is, like, college is for you and you are paying for it.
Yeah.
Don't feel pressured by, specifically to musical theater, by like what the industry is and what can I shape myself to, and how am I going to be the most marketable to casting directors to book a job. That is so short-sighted and will burn you out so quickly, versus what am I passionate about? What am I curious about? What can I learn more about to better myself and be more informed? And then the rest will figure itself out.
Love that advice. Yeah, because it is so tempting to just be like, and I'm coming from the dance background, obviously, but just like, what should I do for this audition to make myself stand out? Let me do everything for this one audition, and then if you don't get it, you don't get it.
Well, and especially, like, I remember, like, freshman and sophomore year thinking, oh, there's these 3 shows on Broadway, and they'll probably be there for a while, and they tap. So I
Yeah.
should be taking, like, 3 more semesters of tap just for this one show. That is so dumb. Like,
Yeah.
and like, you shouldn't even be thinking, if you are committed to getting your BFA and continuing your education and finishing, like, if you're there for a reason, why are you worried about these jobs 4
Right.
years from now?
And keep your options open because
Right.
you never know what's going to happen.
Versus just focusing, like, what are you there for? Education. For your career down the line.
Right.
But, like, that's not serving you. And,
That's
like,
really good advice.
Yeah.
So then you graduated. You've been in New York a little bit, but you've kind of been all over the place.
Yeah. I graduated in 2021 with you, which we had such a unique year, I think.
We did.
More like 2020 and 2021. We had like a crazy COVID senior year,
Yes.
because COVID was still very much a thing, and like all of our classes were online, and again,
so
that's a whole other
weird.
podcast.
But yeah, yeah, exactly.
We need like 10 hours. But and that presented all of its own challenges. But I think we graduated at a really cool time in that the industry was really starting to open back up, and there was just so much hope that, like, after like a long year and a half, we were finally getting back to like our dreams. And,
Right.
But I remember, like, when I moved here in the fall, and usually, especially out of our program, when there's like an in-person showcase, there's such a pressure to move here 2 weeks after graduation, and you are thrown
Yeah.
into the deep end. And we were really lucky that we had the grace of that summer. Like, Broadway wasn't open
Right.
until the fall of 21, and none of us felt rushed to be here just yet. Like,
That's
the
really
city was
nice.
still very much opening up. There were still like the COVID deals on leases.
Right.
And everyone, like, kind of just went home, took a breath, saved a little bit money, and got jobs, which I did, which I always recommend to people. Like, you have to move here with like literally $5,000 in cash,
At least.
and you will spend it in a month, like
Yep.
between like your broker's fee and whatever.
Security deposit.
Yeah,
First
it's-
month's rent.
Yeah. I was really, really lucky. For a good year and a half to 2 years, I kind of always knew my next job, and I did a lot of regional theater. I worked at Gunkwit Playhouse up in Maine. I worked at Gulf Shore down in Florida. I worked at a really small professional theater SBT, as we say, business savvy folks, in the Coachella Valley in California. So I was really lucky in that regard to kind of be all over the country,
Yeah,
coast
because
to coast.
usually there's so much uncertainty and you never know where you're going to be next.
Right. And it's unheard of for any actor to like know their next 6 months,
Right.
unless you're in like The Lion King on Broadway, which we call like a government job. And I was really lucky in that regard that I kind of always knew my next job. I was in a job working and I kind of had something lined up. And then like the off 3-4 weeks here and there. And then I could do like odd jobs and cater and survive. That all kind of dried up. Like this past fall, I had like a crazy like health scare, all these like health problems. And I was actually home with my parents, just like on the couch, full-time job, just healing. And I'll spare you like the gruesome details of it, but it was like really scary, and like my whole entire health was called into check, and I actually had to drop a contract I was going to do down in Florida for a few months. Yeah, which was hard. Like in again, like the job security as an actor, like the day before my contract, I literally couldn't walk, and calling the artistic director being like, I just talked to my specialists and a few different doctors on my team, and like I really don't think I can do this, and being released from the contract, which was the right call. But
absolutely.
So yeah, and now I'm kind of in this spot of I don't know what's next. It's scary, and another thing that artists are always battling is like the financial security of like you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from, and you still need to survive. So there's 1,000,001 odd jobs you just have to go.
And that's one thing that they really don't teach us in college.
Yes.
They always say, oh, save your money because life's expensive. New York City is expensive. LA's expensive, wherever you go. So save your money because you're going to be a starving artist. And you don't realize it until you get here that, holy crap, how do I survive? How do I pay my rent? How are you able to go out to all these auditions when you're supposed to have a job?
Right.
Like, how do you deal with that?
Right. And like how many people get a first national tour on the road making like a high check and per diem and saving so much money, and then like live beyond their means, and that the year after in New York City get a really nice apartment on a 1-year lease and just coast through that. Same with cruise ships. Like most people do a cruise ship not only to maybe see the world, build a resume, a million different reasons to do it. Absolutely. But you leave a cruise ship those 6 months with like a nice savings account, and you can blow through that pretty quickly if you're not really smart about it. I think you're always kind of like juggling with, as an artist, is just financial security of how can I eat and have a roof over my head while still like sharpening my skills for the next job and, you know, pursuing like the dream.
What would your dream be? Because you've already done Broadway, you've already done Radio City, you've done regional. Like, so for someone in your instance, I mean, of course you did Broadway when you were little, so maybe that looks differently now, but you've done a lot. You've hit a lot of bucket list moments, like checked it off. So what does like that Broadway dream look like to you? Well,
I think another reason why I wanted to go to Michigan and why a lot of other schools were high on my list was I knew I did not want to go to a college in New York City.
Right.
Especially because I like grew up here and Albany.
Right.
I wanted like a place, a bubble outside of like the concrete jungle. And like not just like learning the tricks of the trade as I was on the job all those years, but like building myself as an adult in the business.
Right.
And I think I got that at Michigan because, you know, it wasn't here. Broadway is always kind of the dream, is like the highest and in my heart most special. And I do have a very big chip on my shoulder of when you are a child in the business, you are a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah.
And when you are an adult, you are a little guppy, a little flounder in like the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes.
And I still feel, you know, I want to prove myself as an adult, and I can make it to Broadway as an adult. I've never been on a national tour. Sometimes it feels like I have toured because I've done...
You've been around the country in different regional
and regional contracts 2 months to 2 months, and you're always kind of living out of the two bags. I haven't had an apartment in the city in close to 3 years.
Which is crazy.
Always subletted, which has so many pros and cons to it.
Right. Okay, let's talk about that.
Well, you can live in like any neighborhood you want to. Like there are always actors leaving in every neighborhood at every price point at all times of the year.
How do you find, for people looking, how do you find...
Truthfully, just Instagram. like
That's
Instagram
crazy.
stories, like this and that friend. And then like I try to help my friends. Like when I
Right.
see some person looking for a sublet January, February, March, 2 days later, someone's like, I'm looking for someone to take my room. I'm like, this person, maybe
Yeah.
it's within your budget. And
Word
like,
of
and
mouth,
people just
community.
helping each other. Instagram, truthfully, is like the biggest, which you
Wow,
don't
that's
necessarily think about
wild.
that. But yeah, I've never toured before. From what I've heard and from what I've seen with all my friends, touring has a whole different unique set of challenges, especially like for a year. And like, there are all different tours of levels of like, there are shows like Wicked that sit down for 2 months at a time
Right.
and you get your own Airbnb. And then there's shows that are in a different city every night and you're on the bus
Right.
during the day and you like eat at like different
That would be
shopping
so
centers.
exciting and different.
Yeah, and hard, but like so cool. You see the country and all the different touring houses, and you also
Right.
can save a lot if you're smart with your money. So that still very much feels like the one thing I like have not definitively done in any aspect. So I would love to tour. I've done like a little TV film here and there, especially as a kid. I did a few commercials. I've done like a fair share of background, like extra work here in the
Totally.
city, which that's a cool experience. Like if you've never been on a film set and you want to see like how a first AD runs camera shots.
Right. You
and,
learn
like,
so much just by being on set for a
yeah,
day.
and just like that whole world and how different it is. Like
Yeah.
the 16-hour days, which is so different from theater. Like you just show up, do your show,
Right.
and leave. Like your workday could be 3 hours.
Do you feel like theater, though, is merging more with TV and film nowadays? I mean, I certainly, from like an outsider's perspective, it seems like it is through social media and just
Yeah.
there are so many more projects going on nowadays. And like people say, oh, you make more money in TV and film. But
Yeah.
how do you think Broadway is merging more with TV and film nowadays?
The whole pro shot of Broadway shows, which has been happening for like 20 years, but now it is so much bigger than it used to be. So like shows that are professionally captured with multi-cameras in front of the live audience.
So like Hamilton on Disney Plus.
Yeah. I think that's really changed the game, and I think has only
Right.
helped the Broadway community. And like both TV, film, and Broadway have really suffered for a multitude of reasons over the past few years. Like not
Yeah.
only the pandemic, but like then there were the strikes, and then like there were just the fires in California. Yeah, I mean like all media really needs the help right now. Needs the support, the viewership. Okay, so like back to Dreams. Yeah, touring.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
trying
circle
to
back.
like get the arc here. I think I also have dreams outside of this industry, or not
Interesting.
necessarily in a performing light.
Would you teach? Would you?
So I would love. I could see myself being a really good agent or manager.
Oh, I love that.
I really love advocating for my friends in the industry.
Yeah.
And I love when people ask me professional advice. What would I sing for this song? Or should I go to this audition or this one? And what's best for me? Or
Oh, yeah.
I just got this contract and I don't have representation. Could you kind of give me a few pointers on how to negotiate this and ask for more money? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Like it never hurts to ask.
Right.
And I find it so rewarding seeing people that you've been the cheerleader for so many years, that work so hard, achieve success. Like there's
Yeah.
no better feeling than that. Like seeing people like I saw my one of my best friends, Alana Pollard, who I lived with for 3 years in college. She made her Broadway debut last fall in oh my God, what was it?
It's off Broadway now.
No, yeah, it just
What's
closed.
it about?
Tammy Faye. I almost
Oh.
said Tina, not Tina Turner. To that point, like one of my best friends, Alana Pollard, who I lived with in college for 3 years, she just made her Broadway debut last fall in Tammy Faye on Broadway. And knowing her since she was 17 years old and following her journey and working her butt off.
Right.
And seeing her dream come true. Like that is one thing, like seeing a Broadway debut will never ever lose its magic,
Yeah.
no matter how old you get. Because it is like how many people get to say like their biggest dream came true. It takes so much guts and courage for artists and anyone to pursue their dreams. But like I think artists specifically, there are so many people chasing the dream as an actor, performer, singer, dancer that could easily get a job in PR, in marketing, in
Right.
HR, that have all that skill set, that have the resume, that have the education,
Transferable skills.
and choose the uncertainty and the financial insecurity and all like the BS that comes with being an artist because they want that dream so bad. Like it's really courageous, and it comes with a lot to deal with, but
for sure
you deal with it nonetheless.
What do you think makes Broadway so magical?
The marriage of the scale of it, of the budget, of the spectacle, meets all of the people that are the very best at the top of their game, the hardest working artists who have spent their whole life trying to get there, and all of that encapsulated with the intimacy of this is just for these people tonight and no one else. We are all going to go on this ride and listen to this story and what that means for these 2.5 hours.
And we're right down the street. It makes me want to go into a show right now. What would you say to your younger self? Like,
God.
If thinking back to young little Jack, middle school Jack, who made his Broadway debut, got on the Tony Awards, and then went back to middle school, what would you tell him now?
Okay, so that Jack, that 13-year-old Jack, he wouldn't listen to anything I told him. He would probably be like, okay, so who are you? What's your resume? Or do you have the credentials to like be giving me this advice? I think from 7-year-old me who just wanted to sing the Cheetah Girl songs in front of the fireplace for my parents to me yesterday, I wouldn't give any advice in that. Like I've really seen directly, like all the mistakes I've made have really been blessings in disguise and have been teachable learning moments. Also, just if I had to give one piece, I would just say like, stay curious, stay inquisitive about everything that this is. Like don't pass anything by. Be nice to absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
I have seen people that are so kind, that work so hard, that truthfully, in my little heart and soul, my own little corner that I would never share with anyone else, I don't think are that good. That I would write off and would say, I wish them the best, but maybe they don't have a chance doing this.
Wow.
And maybe they should take a left turn. And 2 years later, they are on Broadway, on a show on Netflix, or have 8 million followers on Instagram. Like, it just goes to show you truthfully have no idea where people will end up.
That's so true. So be kind to everybody.
And yeah, like literally just be kind to everybody, and you think you know where everyone is going to end up besides yourself, and you don't. Like just because someone maybe doesn't have the drive today or the raw talent today does not mean 1, 2, 5 years ago from now they won't. And like opportunity won't meet them, and they will
skyrocket. You never know. Be nice.
I learned that firsthand with one of our high school best friends.
You did? Oh my goodness.
Maybe we won't talk about that. Maybe
I
we'll edit
think
that
we
out.
edited that out. No, this has been amazing. You've given such good advice, and I'll have to have you back on maybe this fall, and we can talk more about college auditions and like the process that you go through, because it is so intensive. But thank you so much.
Thanks,
this was
Katie.
so much fun to learn more about your journey.
Well, and I have to say, like, I am so proud of you and everything that you've accomplished.
Thank you.
In all the different hats that you've worn, all the different like pots on the stove you have open at a time. It's really, really inspiring seeing you. Like, I remember just like not even 2 months ago, we had dinner and you were like, I'm so hesitant, but like my biggest dream is starting a podcast.
Right.
And I just want to do it. And I'm like, you have to just like get out of your own way. And you
Absolutely.
did. And like, how many of us have like that one inner voice of like, I think I should do this. I think I should be over here. And like, good for you.
Just listen to your gut.
For acting on it. Like,
because you never know where you'll end up.
Like I walked into here and I was like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. And we're doing it. So
we're doing it. It's so much fun. And thank you so much for everything throughout the years. Everybody, you can watch this podcast on Zeem or YouTube. You can listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, follow us at My Boss is a Theater Kid on Instagram and now TikTok. Thank you so much, Jack. I learned so much, and I can't wait to have you on again.
Thanks.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.